MS fatigue feels like a dark cloud that is forever following us around. It's like no matter how much sleep we get, we're constantly running on low battery. So of course, we're always on the hunt for anything that will help to reduce the fatigue. What supplement can we take? Food can we eat? Exercise should we do or not do? What will take away this fatigue and the feeling of defeat that comes with it? We know that food makes a difference, but what if I told you it's not just about what you eat, but it's also important to focus on how you're eating? Today, I'm breaking down one of the most overlooked strategies to boost energy so that you can feel more productive throughout your day and still have some energy to enjoy life. There are 1 million people diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in the US. So that makes you 1 in a million. And you have a special purpose in this world that no diagnosis can take away from you. So if you are ready to reclaim your body, mind, and life from multiple sclerosis, welcome to my MS podcast. I'm your host, Alene Brennan. Hi, my friends. How are you feeling today? Are you in a season of dealing with a lot of fatigue? Do you feel like your life is a never-ending season of fatigue? I've definitely felt that way at times. And I don't know about you, but it can be emotionally triggering for me. I mean, look, I can deal with pain. I can deal with the frequent trips to the bathroom, whatever. But take away my energy and strength, and I get mad. I like to get things done. I like to cross things off my list and to feel productive. And I have come to realize that I definitely pushed the limits too far prior to my MS diagnosis of just constantly pushing myself to burnout. But I always recovered. I'd get a good night's sleep or just have like a relaxing weekend and I'd bounce back. So I was ready to do it all over again the next day. Then MS came into my world. MS rocked my world, I should say. And I got a very rude awakening when I realized that my energy just didn't bounce back anymore. And the other part of it is that like fatigue would just come in from out of the blue. I would be burnt out without having the satisfaction of having gotten a lot of things done. So I couldn't even like rest admiring all of the things that I had accomplished. I was just tired without anything accomplished. And the fatigue of multiple sclerosis, as we know, can be very unpredictable, which makes it really hard to plan your day, your week, your life. It felt so far out of my control. So my plans, any plans I had, always had a big TBD on them. Here's my master plan, provided that MS fatigue doesn't roll in. And if you know me, you know I loved having a sense of control. I don't love using the term control freak, but I'm sure that's just another form of control. I like to be in control of things, especially my health. So this concept of not being in control of fatigue or the level of energy that I had in a day didn't sit well. If I have stuff that I want to get done, I want to get it done now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not ambiguous later. I want to get it done now. I want to cross it off the list and be done with it. Like, can you relate? I mean, most of us diagnosed with MS are women with type A personalities. We get things done at home, in our families, at work, and in life in general. So a lack of control, a lack of energy doesn't really jive too well with our personality. So there are two things that I have learned from this experience that I want to share with you today. The first, I'm just going to touch on. The second one, we're going to dive much deeper into. So first, the lifestyle that I had prior to my diagnosis, I had to recognize that pushing myself to a point of burnout wasn't sustainable, MS or not. I kind of was wearing as a badge of honor of look at me, look at how far I can push myself and still be productive. But again, MS or not, that wasn't sustainable. So I really had to see MS as a wake-up call to change this part of me that forever wanted to keep busy or be productive. And while this might sound a little dramatic, when I really looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? My life is slipping through my fingers while I'm obsessing over my to-do list. Now, that's a much bigger topic for another episode. Actually, if that is something that you want me to do an episode about, send me an email or a DM over on Instagram. So many of the topics that we do here are listener requested, and that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that these topics are always relevant and valuable to you. So if there's a specific topic that you want to hear about, send me a message. I will add it to the list, and the ones that are most requested are the ones that get highest on that list, recorded and published. But today, I want to focus on what we can do to help manage or reduce MS fatigue. While we've heard a lot about like very specific foods to eat, mainly lots of vegetables, especially those leafy greens to help boost our energy, there's not a whole lot of talk about how to eat. And quite honestly, I see this so often when I start working with a new client in my nutrition coaching program. They're eating more vegetables, but they're constantly tired and they can't figure out like, what are they doing wrong? Or actually, more often than not, they start to think like, maybe this diet doesn't work for me. Like maybe I'm the exception. Maybe this isn't going to work for me. It's a whole lot of work and I'm not getting the benefit. But the missing link isn't what they're eating, it's how they're eating. And I'm not talking about mindful eating. That's beneficial, 100%, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about eating in a way that helps you to stabilize blood sugar levels. So I want to take a minute to explain what that means to help you see if this is something that may be holding you back from getting the results that you want. Basically, I want to help you have more energy so that you can be productive and have energy left over to enjoy life. What a concept, right? So let's start with a little refresher on what blood sugar levels are. I've talked about like stabilizing blood sugar levels, but what are they? And to share this with you, I have to reflect back when I was in college studying nutrition more than 20 years ago. That's humbling. But we were learning about blood sugar levels, and I immediately put this information into a box that was only relevant for people with diabetes. And I didn't see that as a population that I was going to focus on. So it was interesting, but not super relevant to me or the average person. That is just one of many examples of how naive I was in college. Aren't we all? I mean, I literally simplified this down to, oh, well, if you're diabetic, you can't eat sweets and you have to take shots of insulin. And that's not really a population of people that I see myself focusing on. So I'm glad I have background on it, but not something I'm necessarily specializing in. So I tucked that away in my brain, not really thinking about it much afterwards. Then I got diagnosed with MS in 2016, and I became laser focused on learning how to reduce inflammation and alleviate this MS fatigue that felt all consuming. And guess what popped up again? Blood sugar levels. I looked at it and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I have MS, not diabetes. What do blood sugar levels have anything to do with me or multiple sclerosis? It turns out it has a lot to do with me and MS. So here's what I've learned over the years in my own personal experience, as well as a nutrition coach specializing in multiple sclerosis and autoimmune disease. And of course, I have to say, please keep in mind that this is general information. Everyone has unique needs, so this will not apply to every single person in the world. But I think it's really relevant and important for us to understand. So again, what am I referring to when I'm talking about blood sugar levels? Blood sugar levels, you may also have heard them referred to as glucose levels, is basically the amount of sugar that is in your bloodstream at any given time. So when you eat food, specifically carbohydrates, your body breaks those foods down into glucose, which is a form of energy that your body can use. So once you digest your carbohydrates, your body breaks it down into glucose, it sends it into your bloodstream and then to your cells, so your cells can use it as energy. That's why you may feel a little boost of energy after you eat. And you may feel an even more significant boost of energy when you eat something that's like super sugary, like candy, because it's pure sugar. But hold up, I know it's tempting to hear this and think like, oh, excellent. Alene is telling me to eat a high sugar diet to have more energy. This is fabulous. I knew I tuned into this podcast for a good reason. Sorry, my friends, that is not where I'm going with this. Here's where it can run into problems with high carbs and high sugar foods. When we eat too much of them, our body goes into overdrive trying to manage that glucose floating in your bloodstream. Your body doesn't like anything out of balance. It likes to be in a state of homeostasis where everything is just balanced and even and unicorns and rainbows. And a lot of sugar in your bloodstream isn't that ideal scenario for your body. So when your body can't keep up with the amount of sugar that's in the bloodstream, when it can't get it into the cells fast enough, it creates a lot of problems. And that's when it's referred to as high blood sugar levels, when there's too much sugar in your blood, mainly because your body can't keep up with getting it into the cells. It's either not efficient enough with getting it into the cells, or it's overloaded. It's on overdrive because there's so much sugar in your body from either just sugary foods or high carb foods. Now, let's bring this back to MS. What do high blood sugar levels have anything to do with MS, inflammation, and fatigue? Again, as I said before, a lot. But here's the bottom line. When our blood sugar levels spike, it can fuel inflammation in the body. It can create inflammation in the body when there's too much sugar in your blood, which is like throwing gasoline on the fire of MS symptoms. I mean, inflammation is the very thing that we are trying to control as we are living with a chronic inflammatory disease. We are trying to reduce inflammation in the body. So the last thing we want to do is create more inflammation in our body. So that's the first thing. I mean, we definitely want to pay attention to these so that we can help to reduce inflammation in our body. But the other thing, as we were talking about, in the context of energy, you may get a nice short-lived burst of energy when you have some carbs or sugar, but they're always followed by energy crashes that just make the fatigue worse and even harder to deal with. That crash can make you feel tired and cranky and even hungrier than before, which just starts the whole cycle over again. So you're tempted to eat more sweets to get another sugar boost, but again, they just keep going in this cycle of a burst and then a crash, a burst and then a crash. So keeping your blood sugar levels steady is key to keeping inflammation and fatigue in check. So then, our next question, how do we support stable blood sugar levels? It's not just about cutting carbs or sugar. That can be helpful to be mindful of, but you want to focus on how you're eating. One of the things that I work a lot with my nutrition coaching clients is helping them to create more balanced meals and snacks. Now, their starting point is often a lot better than the standard American diet. They're starting to increase their veggies and their fruit in their diet and limit their sugar, which is great, but to get real results, you can't stop there. It's important to create more balanced meals and snacks, and this means adding healthy fats and protein to each meal and snack. So fat and protein can help to slow down the spike of blood sugar levels. Fat and protein take longer for your body to digest compared to carbohydrates, which means that they can help keep those blood sugar levels more stable. So let's take a banana, for example. A banana is a fruit and it's relatively healthy, but it's high in sugar. So that can spike blood sugar levels. It doesn't mean you can't eat them, but if you're looking to really stabilize those blood sugar levels, again, to help manage inflammation and fatigue, just add some healthy fat or protein to it. That's why you often see people pair some nut butter or almond butter with a banana. Nut butters like peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, even sunflower butter have both healthy fat and protein, so they can help to slow down that blood sugar spike that you might have from eating something like a banana alone, or same would apply with an apple. It's fruit, it's great, it's healthy, but it's high in sugar. But if you put a little almond butter or some type of nut or seed butter on it, it's going to help stabilize the blood sugar levels so you can still eat it without having the quote unquote negative effects. Or if you're eating like a bowl of fruit, you can add some whipped coconut cream on top. That has some healthy fat to it. So it's going to help to stabilize the blood sugar levels and just like reduce that spike of it. Or if we look at meals, like take pasta, for example. If you're eating gluten-free pasta, you might be super excited because you're like, sweet, I switched over to gluten-free. I'm pretty proud of myself and it's not so bad. Total side note, but I feel like gluten-free pasta is way better than that wheat pasta that we were told to eat back in the day. That was gritty and gross. Gluten-free pasta, I like just as well as regular pasta, and I feel a heck of a lot better after eating it. So that's just an easy swap. But the bottom line is it's still a bowl of carbs, so it can spike blood sugar levels. But if you pair it with something like a meat sauce, which adds protein and likely some fat, that can help to reduce that blood sugar spike. Or adding some avocado onto gluten-free toast is another example of this. The bread is the carb and the avocado is the healthy fat. So you're focusing on creating more balanced meals and snacks. And this will actually help to keep you feeling satiated longer because, again, if you're just focusing on vegetables, you're going to burn them off pretty quickly and feel hungry like an hour later or so. And that's not fun, constantly being hungry, especially when you're trying to follow a specific protocol, because then it feels like you're constantly in that position of like, what can I eat? What should I eat? What should I not eat? That's stressful. But if you take, again, those vegetables and cook them in some healthy fats, such as avocado oil or coconut oil, or you drizzle a little olive oil on after they're cooked, that adds some fat to it. So it helps to keep you satiated longer. You're not constantly feeling hungry. And that's going to be important for supporting your energy. You need to have some sustained fuel in the body. You can't just have something that your body's like burning off within an hour and then you're not eating for the next couple hours. So you're like feeling fatigued then. Smoothies are another area where people get this all wrong. If you're making a smoothie and within like an hour and feeling tired, hungry, or bloated, that's a good sign that you don't have the right combination in that blender. So if you're just using like water, a banana, mango, like a lot of those high sugar fruits, you may even be adding in some spinach in there, which is great, but there's no healthy fat or protein in there. It's missing the fat and the protein. So I personally like to use coconut milk for healthy fat and collagen for protein. And I do try to focus on low sugar fruits like berries. I'll still add a banana in there, but I don't feel like it's spiking blood sugar levels as much because it's offset by the fat and the protein. Now, if you're interested in learning more about like good combinations of smoothies, check out my smoothie challenge at alenebrennan.com/smoothies. It's a 5-day challenge. There's 5 smoothie videos and demos and recipes, a shopping list. Like there's so much packed in there. So that can really give you some good ideas about how you create more balanced smoothies. So check that out, alenebrennan.com/smoothies. But is all of this starting to make sense? Basically, if you're dealing with a lot of fatigue and inflammation in the body, it's helpful to have an awareness of blood sugar levels and how to support them so that they are more balanced. Personally, I don't think we need to go as far as like tracking your blood sugar levels with a monitor unless you have a specific health need. I don't think the average person needs to be that, like, I'll say hyper focused on it. I think a lot of these like health gadgets, they're fun and they're interesting and like there's like a novelty to them. But I don't want to spend my day and life focusing on like every detail of health. I want to pay attention to like how I feel. So maybe a good benchmark for you is noticing if you have any like classic symptoms of imbalanced blood sugar levels. And they can include anything from like energy fluctuations, again, where we talked about like you have this burst of energy and then a crash. Or maybe you deal with a lot of cravings for sweets and carbs. Many people just label it as like a sweet tooth. I used to say that all the time, like, oh, I have such a sweet tooth. But really, my blood sugar levels were out of balance. And since I've changed my diet, those sugar cravings have diminished significantly. And now I can still have something sweet, but it doesn't feel like it's an insatiable craving where like afterwards the craving is bigger than me and I just have to keep eating more. I don't have that anymore. And that feels really good to not deal with that. Or you may experience like mood swings. So like you can kind of have like a quick shift in mood. You might feel like irritable or anxious or like even just moody for no reason. Another one. How about feeling hangry? Anyone experience that beautiful combination of hunger and anger? That's a fun one. I used to experience that a lot. And it's not as intense anymore. Like I can't say that I never experienced that, but just like the sugar cravings, like it's definitely not as frequent or as prominent or as intense. And I'm aware of what's triggering it now. So I'm like, I had too much carbs recently, or it's been too long since I last ate. Because if you're not having like 3 balanced meals throughout the day, if you're going long stretches without eating, that can definitely throw your blood sugar levels for a loop. Another classic sign are headaches or difficulty concentrating. Like, hello, there's another symptom that is so closely connected with MS, of brain fog. And it's so easy to just think of it as like, oh, this is just MS and it's something out of your control. But that's not necessarily true. What if it were at least able to be improved slightly based on supporting your blood sugar levels a little bit more? So like, do any of these apply to you? Again, energy fluctuations, sweet cravings, mood swings, feeling hangry, headaches, difficulty focusing, disrupted sleep is another big one. If you're saying yes to any of these, I'm willing to bet that it would be beneficial for you to just start supporting your blood sugar levels a little bit better. And I see it in my practice all the time, especially when it's relatively easy to correct. Like just add some more healthy fats and protein into your meals and snacks. You're likely going to stay full longer. You're going to have more stable energy throughout your day and experience better concentration and maybe even a better mood. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm like, yes, and yes to all of them. Now I'm curious. What do you think of this idea? Is this resonating with you? Is this something that you're going to try out? Send me an email or a DM on Instagram. I love hearing your takeaways. And of course, let me know if you have any questions in getting started. But my invitation to you here is really just to consider this. Is this something that you're already doing? And if not, how could you improve it? It doesn't need to be complicated. Like, don't feel like you now have to like create this whole big plan for any time you eat. But next time you are having something to eat or planning out your meals, think about it like, okay, do I have any protein here? Do I have any fat here? And then especially if you are having like a high carb meal, like gluten-free pasta or gluten-free toast, or, like something like that, how can you pair it with something? Again, the banana is another perfect example. It's healthy. However, it's high in sugar. So can you put some nut butter on there? If you can't do nuts, can you put some seed butter on there, like the sunflower butter? Or, next time you're making your smoothie, think about if you're having those different components in there. They can be really helpful. And again, don't forget about that smoothie challenge, alenebrennan.com/smoothies. Well, my friend, we've reached the end of this episode. Pick one lesson from today's discussion and put it into action now. It's time to reclaim your body, mind, and life from multiple sclerosis. And for more resources, events, and programs, head over to alenebrennan.com. See you on the next episode of my MS podcast.